everyone. This is Andrew from Auto Off Topic. The coloring contest is back, and now it's been improved thanks to Frank Eck. The contest is simple. Complete one of the pages in any of three mediums. This includes electronic using any of the paint type programs, colored pencil, marker, and or crayon, with one entry counted per medium per person. So each individual can have a total of 3 entries. There will also be 2 age groups, age 15 and below, and 16 on up. Links to the coloring book pages can be found on our Facebook page or the page for the coloring book contest. Facebook.com/AOTP Contest 2017. Electronic entries, including scanned entries, can be sent to us via email, autoofftopic@gmail.com. Paper copies can be sent by snail mail to Auto Off Topic Podcast, P.O. Box 35, Georgetown, Mass. 01833. Note, all hard copies received will not be returned. Period. The contest runs through November 30th. The companies and owners groups donating prizes are Mitsubishi Motors North America, Adventure Driven Design, Force Performance, Palladian Trucks, Northeast Mitsubishi 4x4, Mitsubishi Montero Owners Group USA, Florida Mitsubishi 4x4, and Mitsu Nation. All right, on to the show.
Welcome to episode 35 of Auto Off Topic. I'm Brad.
And I'm Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
How are you?
So, as our listeners last week should have figured out when we said that it was a Father's Day special, and it was part 1 of 2 featuring your father, that part 2 of 2 would more than likely feature my father.
Yes.
So, welcome, Father.
Well, son, thanks for having me.
So,
and Andrew.
Tonight's guest is my father, Bob, who has been my, obviously, main influence in automotive life from as far back as I can remember.
I can't argue with that.
You probably gave me toy cars before all.
Oh, you were born?
Likely, yes. And most of my childhood memories are car shows with you and car shows with your father and playing with cars with you, and that's about it. You know,
I don't see anything wrong with
maybe a little baseball, a little basketball, but mostly cars. So,
No, that's fine.
Before we get into tonight's episode, we have one small point of business to clear up. We wanted to give a heartfelt apology and we're thinking about you, buddy, to everybody's good friend Frank Eck, because he has taken it upon himself to share this podcast every week when it comes out. And he shared it. He shared it so much last week that Facebook put him in Facebook jail. So he's no longer allowed to post on anything until July 7th.
Apparently we are a threat to Mark Zuckerberg.
Apparently we are, yes. So we appreciate all that Frank Eck has done for us and the Montero and Mitsubishi community in general.
Yes.
But so we're sure he's going to listen. We just wanted to offer our sincere condolences to his lack of social medias for the past 2 weeks.
Which a bunch of those guys are getting ready for their trip to Mitsubishi Owners Day in California.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, a lot of you're going to see a lot of 4x4s there.
Well, it's funny because obviously the Mitsubishi community is fairly tight because there aren't that many enthusiasts, or as compared to other marques of cars.
Yes.
So everybody knows Frank and all the pages. I think it was like 85 pages he shared our podcast to.
Oh, really?
That's why he got in trouble. Yeah. So we apologize that. And Frank, next time I'm down in Florida for anything, I definitely owe you dinner at least. Maybe like all 3 meals in a day. So hopefully at least you're getting your 3 squares while you're locked up in jail.
Yes.
So we'll have to have you on as a guest, guest of honor as our main cheerleader. But anyway, so that's our little word to Frank. So let's move on to the second half of our Father's Day special. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's roll. So, Bob, Dad, what got you into cars?
Well, I had to start back when I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old when my dad had a Triumph TR3 that I used to love to ride around in as a kid. And
which you, of course, own now, a TR3. Not that TR3, but a TR3.
I do. It's my second TR3.
Was it a new car back then?
It wasn't that old. He had a 59. This was probably around 63, 64 in that ballpark.
So we're not going to discuss how old the old man sitting next to me is. But
Yeah, well, the kid sitting next to me.
you can do the math based on
That's
the
right.
fact that he's riding in a 5-year-old car in 1964. Well, actually, no, a 7-year-old car in 1964.
Yep.
So your TR3 was the first real car memory you have?
It really was. And then as I got older, and because my dad had the body shop, which was on the property next door to the house we lived in. And one time he bought this package deal. I was 13 years old. He bought a package deal that had 17 cars in it. And one of the cars in it was an old Triumph Spitfire. And it was pretty ragged. The rocker panels were rotted, and there were holes in the floor, and there was no roof. And I was 13. I fell in love. So I said to my father, I said, Dad, if you're not going to do anything with that Spitfire, I thought maybe I could play around with it and maybe make it run. And he looked at me and kind of grinned a little bit and said, you make it run, you can have it. And I ran out in the backyard, and I stole a battery out of another car and did what I had to do, looking at the dual carburetors, a little scared of that. But I said, okay, I can do this. And I see my father do this enough. I pulled the choke out and turned the key over, and it turned over a few times, and the thing started. So I was all excited, and I ran back through the yard to my father's office, and he's inside on the phone. The car's outside running on full choke.
Of course.
And so about 10 minutes later, he gets off the phone, and I'm like, Dad, let's go outside. I got to show you. So we walk outside, and the car's sitting there going, pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa.
Because now it's warm still.
Yeah.
Quite warm, probably.
Yeah, and he said, okay. He says, let's see you make it move. And he turned around back in his office.
Of course, it was a manual transmission, correct?
It was.
Yeah.
And
to this point, your only experience with manual transmission was your Schwinn Orange Crate?
Pretty much. Yeah. So anyway, to make a long story short, about 10:30 that night, he's chasing me through the backyard going, put that damn car away. But I learned how to power shift and power slide and do J-turns and all kinds of good stuff with that car.
I would like to go back to 13-year-old my dad and see him trying to drive a Standard for the first time and saying he learned to power shift in a Triumph, because I've never driven a Triumph that I feel could handle any kind of a power shift.
On dirt, you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe that makes sense. So he bought a lot of 17 cars.
He bought a lot of 17 cars.
So you're saying that car hoarding goes way back in our family?
Oh, heck yeah.
All right, excellent.
Heck yeah.
I don't feel so uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah. Well, the lot of 17 cars, a lot of them, they were meant for the shop. They were parts cars. They were a couple of repairables and whatnot. But
Well,
this
all
was just
of my
kind of
cars are
tossed in.
technically parts cars, but,
Oh, yeah.
I drive them anyway.
But that was my my love of sports cars and British cars and Triumphs in particular started with the TR3 and then to the Spitfire, and it's to this day.
So before we get too far into your cars then, Gramp was obviously a car guy as well.
Yes.
Not as much into the vintage stuff, because
Not
the vintage
really.
stuff at that point
that was new.
Right. The vintage stuff at that point was Model A's.
Brass age.
Yeah. And he didn't really care about that kind of stuff. He was more into race cars and whatnot.
He was into race cars. He was involved in some Indianapolis cars back in the 40s and whatnot. And
Because I know there's pictures of him around the garage, like hanging out with like Harry Miller and.
There's some great old pictures from the 46, 47 in that ballpark back there when Preston Tucker had his rear engine special, which was a Miller car.
Right. Why are there pictures of my grandfather with Preston Tucker?
Well,
This is the
segue.
Yeah, this is probably like as a car guy, this is like my claim to fame, and such like a cool story.
No, it's a neat story.
Yeah, that I really wish things had worked out differently, but we have at least some cool memorabilia left over from it. But what was Gramps' connection to Harry Miller and Preston Tucker?
Mainly Preston Tucker.
Yeah. Well, hey, but there's pictures of all of them together, so I'm going to ride that wave.
He was going to be one of the original 50 Tucker dealers in the United States,
Which is awesome.
And unfortunately, Tucker went the way it did. And he lost his shirt back in 1948.
All right, you probably wound up losing the Willys franchise because of that, too?
No, he gave Willys. He was a Willys dealer and a Packard dealer. He
Yep.
really had a hard time picking a winner, I guess.
Yeah.
I think he voted for Dewey. But he had the Packard dealership. He had the Willys dealership. The last one to go was the Willys dealership.
Oh, it was the last car in existence with the three brands, wasn't it?
No.
Packard go longer?
Well, he got rid of Packard while Packard was still in business.
Okay.
But that was even during the war when he was selling Packards. They would ship the cars into him with wooden bumpers because they needed the metal and everything else for the war effort. And this was they weren't even building new cars then. They were just during the war they weren't selling cars at all, weren't building cars. And after the war they still had trouble getting things like metal.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. I know, with those pictures, there's a lot of pictures too of DeSantis Motors was a dealership, and it was right here in Salem, and it was a Willys and Packard dealership, and there was even a Tucker sign on the window in the pictures.
Yeah, I'd like to have that neon Tucker sign today.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, what we do have is the big clock, the neon clock that said DeSantis Motors Tucker on it, which is kind of cool.
And some other little memorabilia, but nothing too big, unfortunately. But
Well, inside baseball. Where in Salem was that?
Bridge Street.
Oh, okay.
Anybody from town knows where the brake and clutch is. They're a plow installer.
Yes.
Their front showroom was the showroom, was it not?
That's correct.
And for those of you not familiar with it, this is the Salem of the Salem witch trials. This is the same Salem.
Salem, Massachusetts.
Heard about, yes.
The Salem they teach you about in school.
Yes,
My
exactly.
grandfather sold Packards and Willys at.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
But the great thing, too, is the pictures that he took. When he went out to the factory in Chicago, he's
the Packard factory.
pictures of
the Tucker factory. Yeah.
Cars, and they only made 50 cars, but he's got pictures of the cars on the assembly line in various stages of completion, which
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
nobody's ever seen those pictures. They're really cool.
We'll have to share a couple of them
Yeah.
through the podcast page,
We
if
can
you
do
don't
that.
mind terribly.
Yeah, we can do that.
I figured as much.
Yeah, we can scan those someday, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool pictures there. So that kind of is the ancient history of our car family. And maybe we'll have to have you come back again someday.
Well, there's one
really
at
delve into the
the
history.
Peterson, right, in the vault right now. Well, that's where I saw it. Was in the vault. They had a Tucker.
California Peterson Museum.
They're out there.
Yeah.
I know when Brad, you went to Pennsylvania, you saw one in the AACA museum. The whole Tucker exhibit.
More than one, yeah.
And I know Brad sent me a picture of the exhibit, and I said to him, Brad, that picture, that car in the back, the maroon Tucker, I said, is that the Tin Goose, which was the prototype, the first Tucker built?
Yeah, Tucker number one.
And he said, yeah, it is. And I said, well, the picture hanging in my office of your grandfather standing next to a Tucker at the factory in Chicago, that's the car. And
Not just another Tucker, but
right, that was the
there's only
car.
so
The
many.
picture taken in
the car.
Right, picture taken in 1947.
Yeah.
And I said, go back there and have your wife take the picture of you standing next to that car. And he said, we left like 2 hours ago. And I
Yeah,
said,
we were already long gone.
Yeah.
so that's what I said to Brad's mother, that we're going to Pennsylvania this weekend.
Yep.
And I drove up to Pennsylvania just to get my picture taken with that car. And,
Well, also to see the exhibit.
well, honestly, I mean, the whole thing is I came in and I saw the exhibit and I walked around the corner and I saw the car on the pedestal and I actually choked up a little bit.
Yeah, because memories of your father, obviously.
It was really.
So you replicated the picture.
Yeah.
Not quite as fancy of a dress.
I didn't decide to bring a suit.
Yeah.
Well, the one.
Well, it was casual in the 40s.
The one at the Peterson, they think from restoring it, there's different layers of paint that it was used a couple different ways.
Probably for different promotions and stuff
Yeah.
around the country.
And then, I mean, according to them, like he didn't have enough cars, so he would kind of paint cars different colors to try to,
Yes,
shuffle stuff around.
Yeah, I can't verify.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Make him look bigger than he really was.
I mean, that's what
it
they
makes
were-
sense.
But I
honestly.
will say that the stories that my dad told me about Preston Tucker over the years, if anybody's ever seen the movie Tucker,
Yeah.
when Jeff Bridges played the part of Preston Tucker, he is pretty much exactly the way my father described him as, the showman is always, up and almost like he was on something.
Yeah.
He was high on life and trying to get a car built.
Yeah.
Nothing
Well,
wrong with
it's
that.
like, I don't know. You won't really see. I mean, maybe Tesla's the closest thing to it right now.
As far as like an independent automaker
Independent
in the United States.
United States automaker,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah, well, there were a lot of stories that float around about the big three killed them and everything else. That's really not true, because even the steering wheels on the car weren't ready for production or ready in time, and Lincoln loaned him the steering wheels, Ford Motor Company, Lincoln steering wheels that he could put on the cars to sell the cars, and then when the steering wheels are ready, he could recall the cars and have them changed.
So what is the main reason that
It
failed?
was government.
Oh, okay.
It was absolutely
So there's the big difference right there between Tucker and Tesla.
yeah.
The government didn't want Tucker, and the government wants Tesla.
Yeah.
So there's big time lapse differences there. But I think that's probably the coolest thing about our whole entire family history with cars is that. And he was involved in like quarter midgets too, wasn't he, at the shop?
He built midget race cars, not
Yeah,
quite
full
full-size
midgets.
midgets.
Okay.
Yeah,
Full-size
he did that
midgets.
for
Yeah, full big,
and jumbo shrimp.
big midgets.
fine.
You're talking into the microphone.
He's fine.
Stepping away.
Yeah, anyway.
Amateur.
Anyway.
Well, there was a speedway right over in West Peabody, right?
Yes.
Midget Speedway.
Was that a wood track?
No.
No.
No, dirt track?
No, it was a dirt
I
track.
think it's like a walking track now. You can actually go there and just walk around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's still on Google Maps. Yeah.
I'd like to go over there and check it out then.
And then I found on YouTube, I was looking it up, there's some like film from the 60s of people racing modifieds around it.
So he built midget cars at the shop, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, so he built them from beginning to end, or they knocked down kits, or the kits? What
No,
was
they were pretty much from scrap.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So how come he didn't teach you that? And I'm not a Formula One car racer.
Yeah, because I'm not either. So, you know.
Well, he's supposed to teach you how to build them.
Well, see, back then, I mean, you're talking in the 40s. These midget race cars, you couldn't get anything more dangerous.
Oh no, I'm not saying that we should be in midget racing, race midget cars, but
that's what kind of had him push me away from that whole idea.
Probably. I wish that we still had some of that stuff left over too, because that would be amazing to have. I mean, we're talking probably like Offenhauser 4-cylinder Ford kind of engines.
Yeah.
So what are they, just tube frames with like it was just like a tube frame and an engine in it, right? And
Pounded sheet metal body.
Pretty much.
Those are transmissions, or there's direct drive to the rear end?
I think they had transmissions. I think they did in the early cars.
Yeah, I'm not even.
I know the
positive
newer
myself.
ones are like a direct drive, like the new
Back
sprint
then,
cars.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There was
Like an Outlaw, yeah.
An in-out box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, because unfortunately, by the time I came around, my grandfather was fairly elderly, and I didn't get to know him and hear all these stories really well. And when you were around, the midget racing stuff wasn't old enough to be interesting again yet. Probably it hadn't hit that cycle.
Yeah, it really. I was into everything else. The
Yeah, you
sports
were into the
cars
sports cars and the muscle cars at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just that whole cycle of things and nostalgia that the older something gets and eventually comes back into being fashion and cool again. And I would love to know more about. I'd love to find out more about his midget car builds because his midget car builds because it interests me a lot that somebody that close to me and my family used to build race cars, and I don't build race cars, and I wish I built race cars. So I like to look at race cars.
Well, it might be records somewhere. People
I don't even know how you'd look that up, though. If we don't have the records, where are we going to find them?
Google them, because some people have them and they post them somewhere. There was, when I was looking up West Peabody Speedway, there was results like posted, like
Or
certain
if they have chassis
years.
builder results.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, this was going to require some more research.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions for my father before I go off the rails here? Because obviously he's my father and I'm familiar with him.
Not any more than what's on what we have written down here. Just, I was going to see how many cars you've owned, or do you think you know how many you've
About
owned?
200.
About 200.
Not currently, over the years.
Yeah, over the years. The most I ever had at once was 24.
Yeah. Okay.
24?
24.
Probably when you owned the body shop, though.
Yes.
Because you had more room.
Yeah.
In one room, I had them in 6 different cities, I think.
All right. So
Again.
I see where this comes from.
Yeah, see? The apple doesn't fall far, all right?
All mine ran.
Oh, shots fired.
I don't think that's entirely true. If you had 24 cars, there wasn't one that didn't run?
No, I think they pretty much all ran.
Oh.
Honestly, though, that's too many.
Well, yeah.
Too many for one person to work full time and to take care of. It's impossible.
What about 13?
That's where I'm at now.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Is that too many, or is that a reasonable number?
That's high too, but it's reasonable. It's workable.
Reasonable. Yeah, we're all in the same boat.
it's doable.
Okay.
Well,
The difference is you're older and have, you're slightly more established than I am. And it's a little easier for you to be like, oh, the car's broken, so-and-so can fix it for me.
yeah.
Because you've got to that point where you're a little less into the wrenching now and more into just enjoying.
Yeah.
Are the ones you have now probably your favorite ones, or are there ones in the past that you liked more? Or?
Well, I mean, based on my Camaro I've had for 43 years. I bought when I was 16 years old. And I've got some cars I've had for a long time. The blue Corvette that I've had now for 32 years.
That's an 80 Corvette, so
Yes.
I mean, again, it's
Late
not a real
C3.
special great car, but I've had the car forever and I really like it. There's a few cars I like to have back.
Yeah.
I mean, the pickup truck that I had, the 55 Chevy First Series, that when I bought it, it was just a stock 6-cylinder, but it was a solid truck.
I think we've talked about that truck on the podcast, haven't we?
Briefly.
Yeah.
What was done to it, though? Because it was hot rodded.
It was hot rodded. I had all the parts at the shop. I had a Camaro subframe. I had the small block
Yeah.
Chevy V8. I had a Corvette rear end. I had the interior out of a Pontiac. I had the tilt steering column out of an Oldsmobile. It was a matter of putting it all together.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine who has a shop in Gloucester at Baron Hazen who did the subframe for me because that was his specialty. And I said, I'd like it to sit with a little bit of a rake and about, so high off the ground. And when I got the truck back, it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, we need pictures of that, too, because that's my favorite thing you've ever owned.
It handled like you wouldn't believe. It was four-wheel independent suspension. It was four-wheel disc brakes. I made the bed floor out of teak. It was just, it had air conditioning. It was just a great, great truck. And I drove it every day, 3 seasons for, about 9 years, I guess it was.
It would have like 15 by 11s on the back. They were pretty big.
They were pretty big, yeah.
I remember it because my dad and I drove it to a show or something. You were driving other stuff. And
yeah, that was one of my favorite things from childhood. He had two hot rods over the years. He had that, and you had that 49 Chevy.
Yeah, it was a 40 Ford before you.
Well, I'm talking that I remember was those the two. Like you've had any number of stock cars, and as much as I love stock cars, I really like those two hot rods, especially that 55 truck because it was the 55 first series. So anybody that knows Chevy pickup trucks, 55 was a big year for Chevy in general, changing their whole body style, and everything became more modern. But early in the year, the 55 trucks were still the same body style as the 49 and 50 trucks. So I had the big bulbous fenders and
the only difference was a one-piece windshield and the grill.
The grill was a little different, yeah. But that was just a cool truck. I remember that very well.
it was black and white, right?
It was black fenders and white body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a black roof. And that's the one of all the vehicles I've had I would want back more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. Only because it was, you built it. I mean, your friend built the chassis, but you built the rest of it, and it was
Probably would have aged pretty well.
Oh yeah, all it would need to be current is a different set of wheels.
Yeah.
Because they had those. What kind of wheels were those?
It had true spoke wire wheels.
Yeah, true spoke. Yeah, that's what it was. So they were like the chrome wire wheels with
But
the
they
big
didn't
center
paint it
tabs.
like teal with like heartbeat stripes or anything. So
No,
No.
it was just black and white. And it matched the tow trucks and the other trucks we had at the business. And
Although, would you like to delve into my father's jail car history? Because there are a couple.
oh, go for it.
Dad, do you know what a jail car is?
no, it was a jail car.
Okay, this was coined by a member of another podcast, one that mentions us all the time, so we'll throw their name out there. It's Camden Dubbed. If you like cars, listen to them. Don't take away from listening to us. Listen to them. Please listen to them. Anyway, two really good guys. We've talked about them many times. But they've coined a term called jail cars, and there's a Facebook page, jail car Facebook page, and other stuff. But it's basically a car that you can tell is so outdated that somebody built it and went to jail, and 25 years later, when they got out, their mother had kept it under a cover in the garage and handed it back to him and was like, "Here you go, son. I kept it the way you left it." And he proudly drives it to the car show, and it's like, wow, where has this thing been? So that's a jail car. So your truck was not a jail car. Would you like to admit which car you had that I think was a jail car before I say it? Or do you don't know which one it was? Because in your mind, they're all period correct and perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, you're my El Camino.
Yeah, El Camino. Do you remember the El Camino?
No, I don't remember it.
Do you want to tell the audience what color your El Camino
It was an 85 El Camino SS that I bought. I was hitting the side when I bought it.
Yep.
And it was maroon with the silver on the bottom.
Classy.
And yeah, it was
Maroon,
okay. But
maroon floor interior too, right?
there was a dozen of them out there.
Right.
And I changed it to more of a plum color.
Which is, layman's terms for, is purple.
Well, it was plum.
Purple.
Yeah, plum.
You ever seen Grimace? Yeah.
No, it was way more dark than that. Come on. It was,
Barney.
Maybe more
it was,
Barney
it
purple.
was just a shade off maroon towards purple.
Right.
But the
Big shade.
But the bottom of it, the bottom,
the part that used to be silver.
the part that used to be silver, I painted a metallic pink.
Yes.
But it looked really cool at the time. And we're in the 80s now.
Oh, no,
90s.
it was
the
late
90s.
late 80s.
Might have been. I don't know.
Because you traded it for the Jeep eventually, and that was only a couple years old, and you got it. So and that was in '87. So you paid this probably like '86, I would think. 86,
so
87.
it was period fine.
It was period correct.
Yeah.
I never liked it.
I wouldn't do it again today.
I would hope not. What color pinstripe separated the two colors?
That was purple.
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 That
Well,
was
it was silver with purple in the middle, I believe.
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the first one that comes to mind when I think of my father's jail cars.
Okay, I'll give you that, but I don't think
right.
there's any others.
Well, there's a couple other minor things.
Yeah, give me a for instance.
The Bronco. The red Bronco.
What's wrong with the Bronco?
It had the purple pinstripe in between the red and the white.
But it looked good.
There's a red Bronco and a white Bronco. And the color pinstripe he chose to separate the red and the white was purple.
And silver.
I just remember that it was red.
And white and purple. So, you know, every man
It's
has
a pinstripe color. Come on.
every man has their flaws. I like to say that my father sometimes is colorblind.
I will give you this, though, that your 80 vet, because you painted that,
In 1988?
that has held up quite well.
Yeah, no, that looks beautiful still to this day. Even the wheel choice is
the dark
spot
blue
on.
one. Well, it's the light blue top.
Medium blue over dark blue.
Yeah.
That was the first attempt at a urethane base coat clear coat in the shop.
Well, it's held up well.
I've never
over
seen
many
that.
years.
Was your own color choice
Yes.
design? Yeah, because I've
the
never
dark-
seen another one like
The
that.
dark
won't.
blue on the bottom is factory blue, right?
No, the top is factory.
Well, the top is factory and the bottom's not.
Right.
And it's even cool because at the time he was, way into cars like we are. He still is, but I mean he was way more crazy then. Well, we're talking, you used to do a lot more of your own work and builds and,
Yeah,
and
back
that kind of
then.
stuff.
Yeah.
But when he two-toned the car, he carried the two-tone into the door jams.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Nobody does that.
Well, because you don't usually see most custom vets do not look good.
No,
No, most-
custom vets are horrible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is not a custom vet. It's a pretty much stock vet with a custom paint color.
Yeah.
And a really nice set of Enki EK48s or EK49s.
Can't remember. They look like BBS.
They look kind of like
Yeah,
an
mesh.
RS, yeah.
Basket weave.
Yeah, they're true.
Enkies.
They're a true three-piece basket weave Enki wheel. Because you, at the time, at the body shop that you owned, also were a tire and wheel dealer.
I had a tire store, yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know if I told that story about the steering wheels, have I?
No.
The '84 steering that I have, when I bought it, came with a stack of receipts.
Yeah.
And the guy had bought the wheels in '86, and they had originated from your store. So that was kind of
That was cool.
Yeah. One of the reasons I've kind of have to hold on to that forever, but even though it's not worth holding on to forever. And you're enabling me, though, because it's in your yard and you haven't said anything lately.
Yeah, well. yeah. I'm a little softy when it comes to that, I guess.
So of the stuff you've owned and of the cars you still have now, he said, is there anything you'd rather have back? But what's been what changed to make you go from British cars and American cars to now finally accepting some other countries' cars?
Well, I never disliked Japanese cars. I just was never a big fan of them. I don't know. I mean, I had a bunch of big cars for a while. I had I had the '63 Thunderbird, that thing, the '65 Lincoln. I had the '58 Caddy.
Yep.
The '57 Eldorado Cadillac Brougham, and the '57 T-Birds, which were all. I enjoyed them. They're great cars to be seen in, but they're not such great cars to drive.
They're not driver's cars.
And I decided, I got to the point, I said, I want cars that put a smile on my face. I don't care about anybody else's face.
Okay.
And I kept the Camaro for all these years because I've had it for so
And that's
long.
fun to drive.
And that's a great car to
Yeah.
drive. And even the 80 Corvette is, it's not a muscle car. It's just, it's
Muscle
a nice.
is not the word you use to describe that car.
No, but it's a nice car to drive.
Yeah, it's okay.
But the Triumphs, I get the Spitfire and the TR3. They're a hoot, and you really can't have much more fun with 74 neck snapping horsepower than you can in that Spitfire.
Yeah, slow car fast.
Yeah, and
We're a big proponent of slow car fast around here.
but yeah, I kind of leaned a little bit now that I've got the two RX-7s and the Celica.
That was probably the angriest you ever made me. When
What?
you first told me when I was a teenager and I wanted to buy an RX-7, you said, no, they're terrible cars. You should never buy one.
You were
and then,
looking at a second gen that we didn't know much
And
about.
then, 2 years later, he's like, check out this RX-7 I just bought. And I was like, oh, wonderful, you hypocrite. So,
That's turned out to be a great car.
but, you see? But at the same time, the fact that he didn't want me to buy the RX-7 is the reason that I got into the Talon, which he hated in the long run.
Despised that car.
But it's also the car that got me, and probably also Andrew, into the whole train of Mitsubishis.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, by you not allowing me to buy that RX-7 when I was a teenager, it's kind of changed my whole path. So
I thought it was that in the Golf. Or the
it
GTI.
was a GTI, a Rabbit GTI he wouldn't let me buy too because the miles were too high. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Even the car was fully rebuilt. You're like, nope, too many miles on it. It doesn't matter. It's fully rebuilt. Nope, too many miles on it. But whatever. If I were to go back in time, I would definitely buy that GTI if I would not ask my father for advice.
Yeah.
There are some things I wouldn't ask him for advice, and some things that I'd go right back to him for. So, I still call him. You know, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. Call your dad for advice.
And then just do the opposite.
Right. Take what your dad says and do exactly the opposite. Which is what he does with me, too, so it's okay, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway. So we know you're into cars, obviously. You've had a lot of cars. What do you do with cars nowadays?
Cruise nights, car shows, and enjoy them.
Okay. I'm thinking more plug your stuff. What do you have for car shows that you're involved with?
Oh, well, if anybody's heard of the Mistlewood Concours d'Elegance in Beverly, Mass., I'm the chief judge for that.
Oh, it's coming up.
Which is coming up July 23rd.
Yes.
We have the tour on July 22nd.
Which is basically the day before the event. You have all the cars that are entered are welcome to do like a driving tour of roads.
Right, and even some cars that aren't registered just for the tour.
Oh, okay. It's not an invite only for the tour?
It's not.
No.
Okay.
So you can apply to go to the tour, and it's all
we
through.
might have to go to that for future event planning practice.
Yeah, we'll see. Because it's this, I think it's the same weekend this year as the rally.
Oh, like every year?
Yeah, it somehow works out.
Stupid events.
Anyway,
New England summers being short.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is our 8th year, and it gets better every year.
Really?
and-
8 years already?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
But if you're on the North Shore of Massachusetts, or even anywhere in New England, you should go see that. Because
It's well worth the drive. There's some
Yes.
stuff there you'll never see anywhere else.
the thing is, we get Auto Week magazine and a couple of other magazines have said that there are really 2 concours in the Northeast, and one of them's Greenwich, and we're the other one.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
pretty
really
big, pretty big praise.
That's yeah. I mean, I was thrilled when I saw that. It's really developed into. It's kind of grown its own set of legs, you know.
well,
And
the
it gets
setting is really beautiful too. Right on
setting
the
is
water.
gorgeous. I mean, I was involved in the old Castle Hill Concourse years ago.
That was in Ipswich.
And in Ipswich, Mass. at Crane's Castle, and that was an amazing event.
There's one aspect of that event
that's what I
we
wanted
have
to.
to. We
That's what
have
I wanted to
get-
ask you about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Was-
there's one aspect of that event we have to somehow get
What, the
back.
hill climb?
The hill climb, yeah.
I'll get to that
because
I'll get to that.
Stephanie and I went to lunch up in Essex the other day. We drove by there, and I was like, "Man, I wish they still had that event." Because I only went to it once, and I remember it was like 2001 or
Yeah,
something.
in the Camaro.
Yeah.
You, me, and Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
My Camaro's not in the concourse. It was
No.
just, we went in my Camaro to the concourse.
Yeah, because they had other show.
they-
they had a
they-
show field.
they had vintage car parking
Yes.
that wasn't concourse cars.
vintage car parking for about 2,000 cars.
Yeah, it was
just
ridiculous.
It was amazing.
It was awesome.
It was, but anyway, when I got the call again 8 years ago now, if I was interested in running another concourse, and it was at Endicott College at Mistlewood, and I couldn't say yes fast enough.
Right.
The setting is spectacular, but it's funny going from something like that, and you're starting a concourse off, and you're looking at people going, you know, would you please bring your car to my concourse? And now I get people coming up to me and saying, can I please bring my car to your concourse?
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's grown its own legs, and it's really taken off.
Yeah, I was telling you, I met a guy the other day who's restoring a car, and he hopes to have it done for next year's concourse. I was like, oh, okay. Funny story about that. I know a lot about that.
Well, you're a qualified judge for that concourse.
I don't know if I'm qualified, but I'm a judge.
I'd like to judge
I think Andrew could be a qualified judge, too. You think?
if we're around. Unfortunately,
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I think he could do it.
the
He knows at least as much, if not more than me.
the tour is pretty cool though, because I mean, a couple years ago, that gentleman brought his GT40 road car.
Yeah, like not a new Ford GT, like
No.
like a
Yeah,
1967,
1966, I think it was.
66 GT
Yeah,
Ford.
and
That was
it's-
Unrestored, right? It was.
It's been restored.
Oh, okay.
It is restored. But the funny thing is I placed myself behind that in the tour just so I could listen to it for the whole tour. Forgetting the fact it's burning racing gas, and my eyes were burning by the time we got to the end of the
Doesn't
tour.
matter.
Yeah, and
Worth it.
I was riding with a friend of mine in the car, and we got to our halfway stop in Newburyport. And we get out, and the guy got out of the car. And of course, with the windows in the GT40, the size of a gas door, a fuel door.
And there's no air conditioning, obviously.
And and the guy got out of the car, and he was like dripping wet.
Yeah.
And I said to my buddies, Pete, look at this guy. He is drowned. I wish I was him.
Yeah. Like, hey, you want to ride my convertible way back? I'll drive your car home.
Yeah.
But no, that's pretty awesome, and that's kind of an unknown thing too about the concourse. That's not as popular of an event yet. Is the tour, and
Well, it is. It's mainly for participants and other people. And
I think if people knew that they could see the cars in motion, they might be interested in
Yeah.
going a day early and seeing that because
What's
that's a huge thing.
What's the oldest car you've had there? Do you know?
The steamer.
We've had, going back, I believe, as far as maybe 1902, 1903 in that ballpark.
Doesn't go much further back than that.
No.
We've had a few in that age bracket.
Yeah, so
I
you
know
go
we've
here-
got another one coming this year.
You go basically from the brass era to. Is there a cutoff for?
Well, we try to keep the cutoff around 1977.
Yeah.
But depending on the vehicle, special vehicles, obviously we're gonna let in.
Is there like a feature mark ever this year, or what's the?
We feature something different every year,
Yeah.
and this year we're featuring unrestored automobiles.
Okay.
And we've got some unrestored cars coming from the 20s and 30s.
Which is amazing.
But that's not all the cars there are not going to be unrestored. But
No, just the specialty.
It's a specialty, and what we do is, like the year we had Lincolns or Imperials, there was just a special category for those, special awards for those cars.
Right.
So these special awards for unrestored cars.
Excellent. Do you have a memory or a car from the event over the past 8 years that's been a standout to you? Your favorite?
Well, there's been several.
I mean, I hate this question. What's your favorite car ever? Like, I always hate that question,
Yeah.
but
No.
I think you can have a standout. You know, what would somebody expect to see when they come to Mistlewood that you think is, a good, like, hey, this was there. Imagine what might be there this year.
We had Fred Duesenberg's personal Duesenberg there one year.
That's pretty amazing.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some just amazing cars there. Cars that I'd never seen before myself. Just phenomenal cars that sit up at the top at the overlooking the ocean. It's just spectacular.
Oh, there's some lightning. No, we're just wondering. If you hear some background noise, it started pouring rain.
Outside, yeah. I was like, "What is that?" I thought someone was breaking in the basement here. Apparently, the rain running down the gutter.
Yeah.
Fred Duesenberg's
Personal car.
is your Duesenberg.
That's one of the high points that I've seen there. But
the Cunningham was one of my favorites.
that took Best of Show
right.
last year, and that car was just
the
magnificent.
birdcage?
No, the Maserati, the birdcage.
yeah.
There was a Maserati birdcage
Oh,
there
that's
as well
right,
once. That was a Cunningham. Remember the model name for that? It was a 53.
It was a coupe, one of the handful that were built.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was flawless. And that's all the time, or the previous 7 years, the cars that won Best of Show were always pre-war cars, like that Duesenberg, like the V16 Cadillac that won year. This took Best of Show, and it deserved it. And I'll challenge anybody to tell me different. The car was just magnificent.
And there's some, for people more in like Andrew and mine's age bracket, there's usually some like 60s and 70s race cars. Remember, BMW brought their currently owned by BMW.
I believe that was last year.
Last year, the 3.5 CSL.
Yeah, the race car.
The race car.
Batmobile.
Yeah, the Batmobile.
Yeah. Like numbered, I believe it was number 25.
Yeah, like actual, the car's owned by BMW and BMW.
They were doing some tour of Concourse last year.
They thought to bring that to the Mistlewood Concourse. That just kind of give you an idea of the caliber of stuff that does show up there. It's pretty amazing.
You can
Lancia or Lancia Fulvia.
Lancia Fulvia was there, yep.
You can look up Mistlewood Concourse online to see pictures from previous years, too. And it gives you an idea and the setting and everything else.
It's pretty amazing. It's like, I think, my own personal opinion, I think it's well on its way to like a, Pebble Beach East kind of deal with the settings of it. And that's maybe shooting a little high right now, but hey, listen, if you don't strive for the best, what are you going to ever get?
It is. I mean, we're a little cramped for space there, but
it'll never be as big space-wise, but I mean, as far as the setting goes and the pictures go, it's very similar.
The setting's gorgeous.
It's right over the ocean. It's rolling hills. It's beautiful vintage buildings. It's absolutely stunning place.
Yeah, looking out over the ocean though is just. And the thing is, we get a lot of people come from all around the country. We get people come from the Midwest and the central part of the country who really never get to see the ocean, and that's why we do our tours. Always goes up
coastal
roads up through Cape Ann, Gloucester, Rockport. Could go to Newburyport, but it always goes along the water.
Go up through Rye, those really windy roads in New Hampshire next year. Yeah. That's probably the best. It's my favorite roads to drive on. But so anyway, what else you got, Andrew?
That was it for me. You got anything else?
I don't have anything else to ask him. I mean, I think that we might have to have you back sometime and delve more into the history of the race cars if we can figure that out.
You've actually really kind of
pique some interest,
and I think I really want to do that and see if I can find something out.
I really want to know more of what that is, and I don't have the kind of funds to buy vintage race cars, but I'd love to find any bastion of hope that there's a race car left out there that my grandfather built. I would pretty much.
They might exist somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Because that stuff didn't get driven on the street. It's
No.
like it's stuffed in a garage and forgotten about.
People hoarded it.
Yeah, and now if somebody raced a car like that in the 40s and 50s, and they were in their 20s, you know, they have the age now where they're passing, and this stuff might start to get unearthed. Who knows? But I'd really like to find one of those because that'd be really cool.
Yep, certainly.
But well, thanks for coming, Dad.
Oh, hey, this was kind of fun. I enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it is really fun.
Yeah, we didn't have a whole huge structure going with the show tonight. If we were kind of wing it like we did with Tony last week and kind of give you a fair shake.
Just let it go organically.
Yeah, give you a fair shake to tell your side of the story. I know you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode yet, but you should.
I
Listen to what Tony had to say and how Andrew and I were pushing you and Tony to restore cars together because he's a mechanic and you're a body man. You have every base covered.
Yeah.
And we don't know why you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That's why even toward the end of having the body shop, and I get more into writing than I get into,
Yeah, that's actually
fixing.
another thing, which we didn't even touch on, is my father used to write for Cars and Parts magazine.
Right.
He actually, what year did you start writing for them? 92?
93.
93?
93.
He actually used to write the price guide, the old cars,
It was
Cars and Parts
Price
at the time, Cars and Parts price guide, which was like the guide for the entire country or almost world.
Well, there was a couple of them out there,
But it was important. It wasn't like it was no.
it did okay.
Yeah, it wasn't some guy in a blog. It was you had a published price guide that was entirely written by you.
I think the most fun part about that was it was one of those things that, because I was doing appraising anyway, and
Yep.
antique appraising, and I didn't like what was out there, and I just said, I can do this, and
Yeah.
I spent 18 months. I wrote it, and when I finished it, I drove up to Vermont to bring it to Hemmings to see if they wanted to publish it, and
Right.
they said no,
Yeah.
politely. But then I came back and I called Cars and Parts magazine out of Sydney, Ohio.
Right.
And the publisher was a gentleman named Walt Reed. And I told him who I was, and he said, I heard of you. He says, don't you run the cruise auction in Boston?
Well, that's right, too. You used to run the auctions, too. There's a whole bunch of history here we skipped over.
And I said, yeah, I was kind of shocked.
Well, they did coverage at the time of all the auctions, did they not?
Yeah, they did some.
Yeah.
But, I mean, why would they know my name? But anyway,
Because you're world
he
famous.
said, yeah, I'm a locally famous guy on my street. But anyway, he said, yeah, I'd love to see it. I'm going to give you out my secretary, and she'll get the arrangements, and we'll send you out a plane ticket and bring it with you. And I said, okay. And I brought it out there, and they said, yeah, let's do it.
So you wrote that for a few years, and you actually wound up writing for the magazine.
I wrote a lot for the magazine. What they did was they'd send me all over the country to auctions and whatnot. And I went to Scottsdale. And
you did feature cars, too. I know.
I did feature cars, too.
Yeah.
But the funniest
we
thing...
forget about that when Andrew and I talk about journalistic things and publishing things.
I didn't know all that stuff.
Oh, you did not know that?
I knew some of it. I didn't know all of it,
Yeah,
though.
no, he's got a lot, and he probably still have a lot of those magazines lying around if we look for
I'm
them.
sure they're in the house somewhere.
Yeah, we should probably dig some of those out and look at some of those articles.
All right.
The funniest thing was, though, when I went out, I think my first trip I went out, and I forget if the first one was Scottsdale or Auburn, Indiana, where it was a big one. And they said to me, we want you at our tent between 10 and 2 on Saturday morning. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I can sell T-shirts.
All right.
I don't care, whatever. They're sending me out there. They're paying me to be there. So Saturday morning, I go out looking to find the tent, and I look, and there's like 15 people standing in line. And I'm thinking, we must be having a sale. And I looked, and it's a big banner up that said, meet the author. It said, Bob DeSantis will be here between 10 and 2 to answer your questions and sign autographs. And I'm just standing there with my jaw bouncing off the ground.
What?
Neat.
This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, this was just the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
So that's how I got where I am, because my father is as relentless as I am with car stuff.
Yeah. So with that, are there any cars right now that you think are going to suddenly shoot up in value? Or that you...
I've seen British cars have climbed way up. Japanese cars now, the right cars are going crazy.
Yeah.
You get into like the Mopar muscle cars, they've pretty much plateaued.
Yeah.
talk about like small Thunderbirds. They haven't gone anywhere in the last 25
gone
years.
down, if anything.
A real nice car today, you're still talking $35,000-$40,000, and you were talking that 25 years ago when I sold my other one.
Is that a generational thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Same way you can buy a restored Model T now for $6,500.
yeah. Oh yeah. And Model A's were crazy money years ago, but the bottom fell out of them as well.
So, hot tip, what's the hot buy right now?
Japanese
Anything specific?
sports cars.
70s, 80s.
Yeah, Z cars, RX-7s.
I think Z cars have been even probably 10 years, like going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Z cars were the first.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now it's the RX-7s and the later Z cars even are going up.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Supras. Look what a Supra, the last generation Supra's worth.
Yeah.
Those are ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a fanboy thing, not a true value. That's going to fall out eventually, I think.
Probably like everything else.
Yeah, I mean before everything else. I mean those have gone so inflated that that bubble has to burst. I don't understand a 6-figure 93 Supra.
I saw that that inflation thing go years ago, back when I was still writing.
Yep.
And you'd see guys, they'd be at auctions and they'd be paying $160,000 for a mid-year Corvette. They'd be paying $180,000 for a '59 Cadillac convertible. $500,000 for a certain Ferrari. And then all of a sudden, the bottom just opened up, and that guy that paid $400,000 for that Ferrari was lucky to get $100,000 for it.
Not anymore. The Ferraris
No,
are now.
this is back. I'm talking back then. And
But that was probably a economy thing more than anything else, wasn't it, at the time?
It might have been, but I've seen it happen before. They're
Yeah.
artificially high prices, and the bottom just falls out of them.
Yeah. Like 911
And-
Porsches right now.
Yeah, and it's just, and I remember writing an article about it, and my publisher called me and said, "This thing is scathing. We can't publish this." And I said, "Well, our audience is the average guy whose dream car might be a '57 Chevy that you can no longer afford."
Just wait a few years. Maybe
Yeah,
you can.
and because the article said that the guy that spent the $160,000 for that Corvette that now can get $60 for it, I don't feel bad for him. Because they were just speculators. They weren't enthusiasts. They were guys with briefcases full of cash, and they needed to hide their money somewhere.
Stockbrokers.
I think that still goes on with the high-end
And
stuff.
I've seen
It does.
it goes up
and
and
Porsches
it goes down.
and Ferraris and stuff now is definitely in that,
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
that span of things.
And you'll see the bottom fall out of it again.
Well, good. I'll have my spare change ready to buy air-cooled 911 when the bottom falls out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They have quite a bit of staying power.
No, I'm just angry because I had a chance to buy one like 4 years ago and I blew it.
Yeah.
And now I'll never own one. So, whatever.
Yeah, I could have bought a GT40 when I was 16.
That's true. You could have. Did you ever hear that story?
I've heard bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
There was one at the shop.
It was at my brother's shop,
Yeah.
and it was hitting the front, light hitting the front.
An
it was
actual GT40.
an actual GT40, and this was in I was 16, so 1974. Yeah, when I bought my Camaro, because I bought the Camaro instead. And, but the car was hitting the front, and it was a ton of money. It was $10,000 hitting the front, and I was all set. I wanted this car so bad, and then my father said, "Not a chance," and I didn't get it.
I wonder where that car is now.
I have no idea.
I wonder what car it is.
I know. I mean, because you could
They're
have
only
paid 10
so-
grand for it and just sat on it and not done anything to it.
Wrecked. Yeah.
Wrecked.
Yeah,
But you wouldn't have. You'd have put it back together.
Yeah.
yeah.
I might not be here because he would have been killed drag racing on 128.
That's what my father was afraid of.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Drag racing. My father was the one that was drag racing with me in his Corvette, and me and my Camaro down 128.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember riding with the two of you and going too fast at a young age.
Not us.
Yeah. No, it's definitely in the blood, which is why I own slow cars.
Yes.
So I can drive them hard and not break the law because I have a little bit of a heavy right foot,
Yep.
as does Andrew
I
and
do.
my father. But the only one who's calmed down is your father's calmed down a little bit. He doesn't have a heavy foot anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he has stories in the
does.
past when he had a heavy foot too, so it definitely runs in the families. But anyway, so thank you for coming. We appreciate
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Again, thank you.
Thanks for being my dad. Thanks for still being around.
I appreciate
Thanks for,
that.
everything you've done for me over the years, even to this day. At 36 years old, I still call you for help, and I still don't listen. But it's nice to vent once in a while. Mm-hmm. So, thank you for that.
So again, if you're in New England and you want to see a really good Concours d'Elegance. You should go to Mistlewood. Is it mistlewood.com?
It's Mistlewood Concours, I believe, .com. But if you look at even Endicott College, if you Google Mistlewood Concourse, you'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find it.
And you'll find it on the EndicottCollege.org.
Because I think
edu.
it's very inexpensive for spectators, too. It's like $10.
Oh, no, it's like 25.
25. Okay, 25.
Endicott.edu/concourse.
Yes.
That's how you get to the page.
It's right in Beverly,
So,
Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's really half hour from Boston. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth a trip to Massachusetts to see it if you're not even local. I mean, it's a pretty amazing event, and I would go out of town to see it.
Yes.
I'm glad I don't have to, but I would. I mean, honestly, we do it technically because it's the same weekend as the rally, the New England Forest Rally every year, and I'm always running away Sunday morning from the rally, first thing in the morning, and drive home 3.5 hours to make sure I'm home in time.
Yep.
So. And every year it's like, oh, next year I'm just going to skip one of these things, and then I can't skip either of them. So, but
Oh, well.
all right. Well, Andrew, social media.
Yes, you can follow us on Facebook, Out Off Topic Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Out Off Topic. You can follow me on Instagram, Raced Anger. Brad?
Don't forget the Auto Off Topic coloring contest is on again. We
Yes.
have the little intro before the show. I'm sure you heard.
Yep.
But there's a Facebook page for that. The podcast, as always, is brought to you by Vintage Imports of New England. Look us up, vintageimportsne.com, and Vintage Imports of New England on Facebook and Instagram. And my personal Instagram that Andrew will make fun of again, because this is just a weekly thing, TSISS350.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening.
Thanks. Keep cars analog.